Hello and welcome to Tea Read Lightly, the podcast where two dinosaurs talk about books. This week, Trex is away again, so we're talking to Steve. So, hi Steve.
Hi. I am trying to decide which dinosaur I am, and obviously I'm one of the robot dinosaurs from Horizon. So I think I'm going to be a tall neck, or maybe a snap maw.
I don't know enough about this, so
snap maw's pretty cool. Gonna send you pictures. Anyway, we can move through this.
So time travel's been implemented in multiple directions then, so that you can be from the future and I can be from the past?
I think so. That's probably how it works.
Yeah. Or black holes? All I've got is a snapping turtle. Yes, I assume so. I found a picture of a snapping turtle when I googled that.
That's not correct?
Close?
I've sent you a link and.
Okay, well I will put a photo of you on our website then, so that everybody knows exactly what you're referring to.
Excellent.
For reasons that I'm sure will become obvious to you, this episode has had the blurb cut in at a later date because I hadn't actually read it at the time of filming. So please enjoy this extra long episode. Nos4r2 is a spine-tingling novel of supernatural suspense from master of horror Joe Hill, the New York Times bestselling author of Heart-Shaped Box and Horns. Victoria McQueen has a secret gift for finding things: a misplaced bracelet, a missing photograph, answers to unanswerable questions. On her really tough burner bike, she makes her way to a rickety covered bridge that within moments takes her to wherever she needs to go, wherever it is across Massachusetts or across the country. Charles Talent Mannix has a way with children. He likes to take them for rides in his 1938 Rolls-Royce Wrath with Nos4r2 vanity plates. With his old car, he can slip right out of everyday world and into the hidden roads that transport them to the astonishing and terrifying playgrounds of the amusements he calls Christmas Land. Then one day, Vic goes looking for trouble and finds Mannix. That was a lifetime ago. Now Vic, the only kid ever to escape Mannix's unmitigated evil, is all grown up and desperate to forget. But Charlie Mannix never stopped thinking about Victoria McQueen, and he's on the road again, and he's picked up a new passenger, Vic's own son. Okay, so we are going to talk about the book Nos4r2 by Joe Hill, which was a recommendation from you. So where did you find this book?
I wouldn't call this a recommendation from me. I had not read this book previously, nor was it recommended to me by anyone. So the selection process for this, basically, I have read Horns, which is another book by Joe Hill, and which was adapted into a movie starring Daniel Radcliffe. And I thought both the book and the movie were fantastic. And much more recently, actually, like right before I decided about reading this book, I had watched the Netflix show Lock and Key, and arrived at the end of it and found out that it was also by Joe Hill. So that kind of sold me that this was going to be probably a good book.
Yeah. Did you know that this is also a TV show?
I found that out after I started reading.
Oh, okay. I found it out.
I haven't checked it out yet.
About half an hour ago when I Googled it. Googled the book.
Good. Doing that research.
Yeah. I'm not researching the book. I'm just reading it. The background information, no, I don't do that.
That's fair.
If it comes up on the Wikipedia page, then I'll know about it. If it doesn't, then I won't.
Yeah. Well, yeah, so this is by Joe Hill, the son of Stephen King, and Stephen King murdered Trex, I think is what happened.
Yeah. So she will never do a thriller because she can't get through a Stephen King novel. So, yes, I assume she has been murdered.
Okay. Glad we've sorted that out.
Yeah.
that's actually why she's not in this particular episode.
Shame about the murder, though.
Yeah. Well, we'll see if we can like bring her back as a zombie or do some time travel shit that kind of like voids that and have her back next week. But who knows?
We've established that time travel works, so
yeah,
here we are.
Winner, chicken dinner.
I guess spoilers on that. Whatever. the minor
on the time travel thing.
On the time travel thing.
Yeah. I mean,
the most frivolous spoilers.
Well, maybe we should have held off until we reached the spoiler section of the show.
Yeah. It's
okay.
It's the most minor thing possible. I'm more priming anyone who hasn't read it yet. Look out for the one thing. You won't know what it is.
All right. So, what do you rate this book as?
So I was thinking about that because I knew that was going to come up, and I don't really know how I would rate this. So I guess to give a little bit of like context for me first, I guess. I mentioned I've read Horns. I liked Horns a lot. My usual genre of stuff is more sci-fi and fantasy. So I've been reading a lot of The Expanse, the Red Rising series, which I was actually the one that I think recommended that book to you guys.
Yeah.
Trying to think what else. Lies of Locke Lamora, which is The Gentleman Bastards, I guess is what the series is called. So books like that. So this is very different from those things. And there were parts of this book that I just absolutely hated.
Okay.
But then I read the last 200 pages in functionally one sitting. Like a 3?
Okay, fair enough. I have deviated into thrillers a little bit. More so like an action thriller rather than this is like a horror thriller. So the horror part of the genre is not really my cup of tea. I don't really like horror movies, but I actually really enjoyed this book. I read this book in 3 sittings in total, which you got in like text messages. I'd be like, oh,
yeah,
that
contextualizes those texts a lot because it was like, have you started the book yet? And I was like, yeah, I'm like whatever, like 100 pages in, and then the next day it was like, oh my god, and I was like, what? And you were like, I've finished. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm a pretty quick reader, and yeah, as like the last 100 pages kind of went pretty quickly. I kept trying to like, because I was reading the e-copy, trying to like see how far I had to go to the end, because I'm like, I just don't have time. I just don't have time to read it all. And like, how many pages? Okay, like I can squeeze it in. I can keep squeezing it in. It's fine. And then I was late to training, but it's fine. It was fine.
Yeah,
everything.
Somewhere quite near the end, I had to like make a decision. I looked at the clock and it was like, if I try to read until a certain time, I'm gonna end up like if I try to read until the time that I want to go to bed, I'm gonna end up too close to the end to end up going to bed at the correct time. So I just like ditched it right there. I think that was a contribution to like the last however many pages I read in one sitting.
Yeah, so I think this book probably is like 3.5 to a 4 because there was like quite a few waves where you're like, the suspense is like driving me to keep going, and then you'd be like, so many things have happened and I just can't. Like, okay, a lot of people die in this book. I'm sorry, that's a spoiler, but like like there'd be a couple of deaths and I'd be like, I need a happy moment. I can't keep being this sad.
Can I get one of those, please?
Yeah, the characters in the book need a win. I'm gonna put this down and watch a TV show that is incredibly happy. Which is mostly I go and watch cartoons, but it's fine. We're watching the Avatar, but it's fine.
I was about to say that's what I was like pairing this one with. That was my nice like after dinner drink was okay. Now it's time for some Avatar.
Well, I'm surprised because we didn't talk about that at all. But yeah, good pairing for everybody else going forward. Avatar, The Last Airbender, or are you watching Katara? Or not Katara, Korra.
I do not know where I would find Korra to watch it, but once I find Korra,
I think I watched it on Crunchyroll. So
I guess that settles the question of is it an anime? That's how you prove this debate, right? Is just if it's on Crunchyroll.
Yeah, well, I mean, they didn't get to launch. They air their last few episodes on TV, so that to me gives it a lot of points.
Well, I typed in Avatar, and Crunchyroll is asking me, "Did you mean a star?"
I think that their search engine is not great, and would have searched Crunchyroll Avatar Korra in Google. So.
Okay, well, I found a page that describes it, but it doesn't seem... Anyway, this is for later.
Bookmarking this search.
The world does not need to listen to me trying to find children's cartoons.
I mean, I can cut that.
For
it's
adults.
fine. It's not a kids' TV show. It's definitely a YA TV show.
Yeah, that's probably actually much more accurate.
Yeah. As is like 90% of the books that Trex and I read. She's like, you keep like trying to get me into these high sci-fi, high fantasy books, and I just don't have time.
But those are the good ones.
Those are
also,
the good ones.
I noticed you guys have been really getting into vampire novels, so I think I wanted to suggest something that wasn't a vampire novel. So here we are
with the vampire novel.
Put your spoilers headphones on for a second. A vampire novel?
It's called Nos4r2. I don't think that telling everybody that it's a vampire novel is a spoiler.
He's not a vampire. But he is, though. But he's not.
He's more of a Dementor, but I don't think they could call it Dementor.
Yeah, that's some copyright stuff right there.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Should we just like jump into the spoiler section then?
I think we've already done it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, okay.
Do you have like Trex make a noise for that?
I'll cut her noises in. It's fine.
Excellent.
It'll be on point with the theme. You know, when we go to Christmas land in the spoiler zone.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm gonna a lot. Then I'm gonna cut out all of those ums because now I'm following the plot thing that's written down. Anyway, what did you feel like the opening was? What did you think of the opening with the hospital scene and the nurse?
So it's nice that they like. I do like a couple of things about just the construction of this book, and the fact that it has like the date, and then as soon as you're done with the prologue, it's like, oh, we're before that now. Like that was kind of him to do that. The
teaser.
Yeah, it's like this is gonna happen, which kind of takes away like. I mean, you're reading a book, so like when you get to the part a little bit later where it's like, oh, he's dead. Like, you can look at how much book is left and be like, no, he's not dead. But, like, this did, like, kind of blunt that even further. I don't know, it does, I was, 4 pages in when I was like, oh, cool, I accidentally picked a book that's just about a pedophile.
Yeah. I had, based on entirely the name, I didn't read the blurb or anything before that. I was expecting like actual vampires and like some level of like mysticism and mythology and all that kind of thing, and to be like, oh no, he's just like given a serial killer name that's like Nosferatu, like the vampire killers of, I think there's one in the Czech Republic and one in the UK, and you're like, oh, not really where I thought this was going, but okay.
Yeah, I also, in doing my due diligence for picking out this book, also did not read basically anything about it. So, yeah, so this first, like, all of it, I guess, was an adventure. But yeah, I think that the start kind of like sets you up with just all sorts of weird stuff.
So many
He
questions.
immediately talks about Christmas Land. And I was actually looking at this just a minute ago, but like it talks about like the House of Sleep, the Graveyard of What Might Be, and it really just is like none of this means anything.
Yeah,
But
I
if you read like even just like 2
missed
chapters and went back.
Yeah, I completely missed that he mentioned. I remember the House of Sleep, but I didn't realize that he'd also mentioned the graveyard and like a couple of other things. Like that clearly that passed me over when I was reading it.
Yeah, I mean it's just a bunch of gibberish if you haven't. Well, if you haven't read the book for sure, but also I guess if you haven't read literally just the back cover, you're like, Christmas Land. What's this interesting concept he's introducing?
Yeah, so in the future we read the blurb? Is that what we're saying?
So here's the thing. I saw an advertisement for Thor, and then I knew that Thor was going to fight the Hulk, and now I don't ever want to know anything about any media I'm about to consume. And I really wish I could just trust people to like not show me that Thor is going to fight the Hulk, but I don't trust them. So
yeah.
I'm going to need other people to read the blurb for me.
And send you a recommendation.
Yes. I need to outsource my book recommendations.
Yeah, fair. I am so just casually talking to book nerds somewhat yesterday, and none of them knew who Anne Rice was, and I was like, excuse me? And they were like, oh yeah, who's Anne Rice? I'm like, are we talking like Interview with a Vampire, Memnock the Devil, like Queen of the Damned? You don't know any of these? Like, I don't really read fiction. I'm like, who, what? Here is everything I know about the story, including the spoiler, and I should have just given you the blurb. That would have been much better, but like.
So don't outsource to you.
Yeah. Don't outsource to me. This is why I like get other people to pick the book, and then I'm just happy to like talk drivel with them.
That's fair.
Anyway, and this incredibly like tangential conversation. The book opens in a hospital where Charlie Max, who is our convicted child abductor, not necessarily pedophile, but pedophile, I don't know, wakes from his coma, threatens his nurse, and nobody believes her because he's basically still in a coma.
Yeah, and he's like 700 years old.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all I have.
Everybody's like, he's in his late 80s, and he like doesn't. He's a blob of goo in a bed. Are we sure he's only in his 80s?
He's described as looking older than Keith Richards.
That's
so like
fairly old.
Yeah. So at least 200.
Yeah, minimum. All right, and as you mentioned, so the book has that little moment at the start, and then we jump backwards in time because time travel is key. To the brat.
Well, the shorter way, and the brat.
Yeah. Well, we get the brat
actually,
first.
Does your because we were talking about I said something about my version of the book, which I have hardback, and you were reading on electronic copy. Mine has section names that have dates, and then it also has like little illustrations done by, I've lost it, Gabriel Rodriguez, I think.
So I didn't get any of the illustrations, but
Gotcha.
It did have some section names.
Okay. Because that was, we'll get to that, I guess. Never mind.
Yeah. Were there more clues in the pictures then? Is that what you're telling me?
So like this section is named The Shorter Way, and it has a picture of the bracelet that gets lost. But it's also, when I started texting you, what to you was apparently gibberish about the gun that says
Chekhov's, yeah.
Chekhov, property of Chekhov. Yeah, that's.
Yeah, and it also.
We can probably cut this entire 5 minutes of me ranting here.
It's fine.
Yeah. But
so
yes, we need the brat.
Yes. And she is running away from her parents, who are having another fight over the fact that her mum lost a bracelet at the beach. And she's like, well, I can find it. Like, I can do it. I can be the one that's the hero, and then there's no more fighting, and then they'll stop and make up, and everything will be okay. So she gets
Very
on her
8-year-old line of thinking.
Yeah. Which is fair, because she's 8.
Yes. Well, that's why I bring that up.
Yeah, so she gets on her bike, which is too big for her because it's a big kid boy bike, and she goes off and dares herself to cross the Shortaway Bridge, which then acts as a tunnel through time and space and takes her to the beach in, is it the Hamptons? I don't know.
It's not the Hampton.
I don't know. It takes place in America, and therefore I have only a vague understanding of the locations.
Hampton, New Hampshire.
There we go. I win. Do I get some money now, or at least a present?
Something like that. Probably.
I just get
no. So the
rights,
Hamptons. Right? Okay, and this is the Hamptons is technically referring to New York.
Okay.
Not New York City, but a part of New York. And
that's where swanky people go, right?
Yes. So you win no prize. You win a small prize.
I got the name correct.
You get to feel like you were right, even though very technically you were incorrect.
Rude. I don't
the
need
smallest
this
prize of them all.
Rude. Anyway, okay, cool. Jumping forward, so she gets across the bridge. The bridge takes her to the other Hampton, where she manages to pick up the bracelet and drive back. And in coming back across the bridge, she basically gets a fever and a headache, and ends up almost having a seizure when she gets home with the bracelet.
Yeah, she has a pretty rough go of it.
Yeah. So that's what you get for using a casual portal and not, like, getting a proper spaceship. Duh.
Yeah, or just a faster bike.
I don't know that would have helped.
Well, it's only a few hours drive away, so a faster bike.
Oh, if she went the long way.
Yes. Oh, yes, I'm sorry. She's not just driving faster on this bridge. Like, I'm talking about just not using the magic, and instead of maybe a headache, she, is a child on a freeway.
Yeah, she's an 8-year-old child on a freeway. Good job. Excellent recommendation. You should be given an award for safety.
Thank you.
So,
and I think this is the last time I'll derail us to talk about the chapter titles specifically. Mm-hmm. The last time I'll derail us on that one thing.
I doubt it, but okay.
Yeah, probably not. But so, and I'm bringing this up again because maybe your version did not have it, but this is a lot, but not all of the location introductions are just finishing the sentence from the previous, I'll call them chapters. So, like, she walked up around the corner on unsteady legs and looked at the walk-up window of, and then the next chapter is, or the next area is just called Terry's Primo Subs.
Yeah.
And I think it's neat that he does that.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. So we did have that too in the E version of the book that I had. So.
Okay.
It's almost the same, right?
Yes. Except I spent, I don't know, $20 on mine.
I didn't. Shipping anything to my house in a country where everything, you can't get anything here. Like, I don't understand. Like, there are people here that do things. Let's not talk about the internet issues again. Ugh. It's fine. It's fine. When Trex and I have a castle in the Czech Republic, everything will be better then. That's the plan.
There you go.
Then I can get things from Amazon.co.uk.
And all the problems will be solved.
Yeah, they opened an Amazon Australia, but between tax and shipping just within Australia, it's useless. Basically, you have to buy anything through eBay or buy a digital copy of a book if you want it. Like, eBay is cheaper. I get anything from China for like a third of the price. Moving on.
All right, then.
Yeah. You just have to be slightly better at Googling. Anyway. Or the Alibaba website. That's also pretty good. Now I'm moving on. Now I'm definitely moving on. Anyway.
This
cool.
time for sure.
Yes, I won't get sidetracked. You don't get sidetracked. So, one of the trips that she makes across the Shortway Bridge to find things. So she's a finder of things. And on one of those trips, she ends up traveling to here, Iowa, because she needs to find an explanation for what's going on and why she can go across the bridge. When she's there, she meets Maggie, who is 15 or something. She's like older, right?
She's older, yeah. But so is Vic is also older once we get to that point.
So the brat's real name is Victoria McQueen.
Should have probably mentioned that. I'm trying to find. I know it's like a couple of years later.
Yeah, I think she's like 11.
She's about there.
I don't need a reference text. It's fine. I have a brain. If only I could memorize my homework. Anyway, so she goes to meet Maggie, who is a librarian who uses Scrabble tiles to determine like the answers to questions. So it's kind of like similar to using the bridge to travel through space. Maggie uses the tiles kind of like she has an infinite supply in the bag, and she gets to, I don't know, divine the future to some extent, but like not really, because she doesn't.
Yeah, she just gets to like sometimes know things, but in a cryptic kind of way.
Yeah, it's kind of like divination in general.
It's an alright power, it seems.
Yeah, I mean, I'd prefer Vic's personally, but
What, being able to go places, but also your brain explodes?
I mean, it gets better when she's an adult. It's fine. Moving promptly along. Okay, fine. I want Charlie Mannix's power because that seems to not affect him at all. In fact, it helps him a lot.
It takes away his empathy?
You don't need that.
Yeah, okay. I figured we'd be on opposite sides of this argument.
Okay, which one of the powers would you have if you could?
Of the three?
Yeah.
Or
the invisible chair. Maybe.
The invisible chair?
Yeah, so Maggie talks about this other girl that she's met that has powers that are the same or like within the same vein, and the girl sits in her grandmother's wheelchair, and if she wheels it backwards, she wheels into the alleyway, and she can hide, she becomes invisible.
I forgot about that one.
But then she ends up needing the chair.
I don't know. The Scrabble tile thing seems like the stutter is permanent, so I guess I'll go with Vic's.
Yeah.
The shorter way seems pretty useful.
It does. Okay, so moving on about what power we would want if we could have any of the powers that are listed in this book. We need to get
4 things to choose from.
Yeah. So Maggie introduces us. So the side effect of Maggie using the tiles is that she has this stutter, which makes it a little bit more difficult to understand her. But she finds that pain is a great way to make her come across as more eloquent and remove the stutter. So the pressure situations and pain gives her a way to push through, which occasionally having a stutter myself, it actually makes a huge difference. Yes, so have you not heard me do terrible stuttering? I got really stuck on one of the words in one of the episodes that we had before, and I think it was Satan. I got stuck on the word Satan, and I was just like hissing at Trex for like 2 minutes, and then I was like, you need to jump in here because I don't know how to get like this word out. And then like a minute later, I was like, bam, I have it. It's fine. Just if I'm comfortable, it's like terrible. If I'm uncomfortable, then I'm fine.
So more of an emotional pain that fixes it.
Yeah, just the pressure to perform in social situations because, you know, my anxiety can like overcome my stutter. They're just intertwined. Terrible. Anyway, moving on. So Maggie's warning Vic against Mannix, whom she calls the Wrath after the model of the car that he drives, and because she never gets his real name from the tiles. Because the tiles don't seem to be able to give anybody's real name. So Maggie knows Victoria as the Brat, and she knows the girl in the chair as something else, and she knows Charlie Mannix as the Wrath, because the tiles won't ever give the real name of anybody.
Yes. Yeah. Like, and that's why we're introduced to her as the Brat.
Yeah. That was what her father called her, but with affection.
That's a thing.
And her mother. Yeah. Look, my dog is Pooperino because he pooped so much for a while. You know. And in your eye, these are all names said with affection.
Sure, I believe you.
They are. He's lovely. I love my dog. He's just poops a lot, and sometimes he gets a lot of eye booger things. Anyway. So, Vic travels home, but she ends up hitting something with her bike and gets a terrible fever. And her dad or her mom hides the bike when she's in, like, she basically ends up in a fever coma for like 2 or 3 days, right? She's having seizures.
Yeah, each time we talk about it, up until like later in the book, it just like gets worse when she's doing it, and it seems to be tied to how long she uses the ability.
Yeah, how long she's.
But the thing that I don't understand about that is that at the end of the book, she uses it for like one-way travel. So shouldn't it just be getting progressively worse instead of just kind of going away?
She does talk about getting a headache and it's behind her eye and she thinks she's blown. When she's in Christmas Land, she talks about the fact she thinks her eyeball exploded.
Yeah, but maybe I'm misremembering, but I thought it like should have been substantially worse through all of her like traveling from where she was to her dad's house to the
library to
Christmas house to the library.
Land of Sleep.
Anyway.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll get to that later, I'm sure.
Did they not like do a workup on her? Did they just like say, she's having seizures, it's fine?
I think that means that she would have to have parents that gave enough of a shit to take her to a doctor. But also, they're not exactly rich.
This is true.
And I mean, there are kids that do have seizures up until they finish puberty, and then it's just like done. It's their brain just trying to sort shit out, and then they don't have any issues when they're an adult. So maybe they did, and they were just like, oh no, it's like growing pains.
But you still kind of want to.
It's growing pains for your brain.
Growing pains, but in your brain.
Yeah.
Good.
Sorry. My apologies. It went from being really, really fucking cold to being really, really hot in the cave because I turned the heater on for the downstairs section of our house, and my room
the entire country's on fire again.
Yes. But my room has like a fifth of the volume of the rest of downstairs, which is all open, at the same airflow. Like the same volume of air being pushed in, so it's real hot in here. I need to take off my layers. Yeah. So cool. So we switch perspectives after that, and we end up with Bing, who has was named after Bing Crosby. You know.
Because Christmas.
Because Christmas. And
this chapter is called Spicy Menace, and I do apologize for bringing our attention back out to the titles, but I just thought that was a very good one.
That is a pretty good one. I like that one. So we get a little bit of his backstory, whereas his best Christmas was when he was like 6, and his dad gave him his Vietnam War gas mask.
Yes.
And helmet? Or is it all one piece? I think it might be all in one piece.
It's
like
all
a helmet.
It's all one
helmet.
guy.
Helmet and gas mask all in one guy. All right, cool. So Bing is mid pleasure flicking through one of his dad's old magazines, and he sees an ad for a place called Christmas Land. And so he races off to get his mom's typewriter, and he knows that the O doesn't work. But he writes a letter where he replaces the O with a 0.
So just to be deeply upsetting, he sends a letter where every lowercase o is actually a 0.
Every O, every capital O, every lowercase o. Oh my god, reading it just frustrated me on an OCD kind of level. I'm like, oh. But
Joe Hill wasted no time. He was like, this is going to be upsetting. And I'm going to set the stage right here.
Yeah. So,
and it only gets substantially worse.
Oh, it does. You kind of get the impression that at least initially, I got the impression that Bing was like 15. And like I was not paying enough attention to the timestamps. Because I thought he was like 15 and that there was no computers around, like in any kind of level, but like the 1980s is in the dawn of the computer era. Oh, he's in 1990? Well then,
1990
definitely,
is this section.
There was definitely the start of computers then. I just should have been paying more attention. But I was too enthralled with the story. Yeah, so he sends
Sorry. The add to Christmas Land, I think it's interesting that this literally just doesn't come up again for the rest of the book. I guess it doesn't really have a place to, but it's just weird that like
he advertised it.
Was there actually a physical ad in like a real book that like Charlie Manx was trying to get people to write to him, or was this just like a magic thing that happened so that only Bing saw it?
Well, he'd also been looking at the magazines for like a while. Like you realize that the magazines are old, so I feel like given Bing's attachment to Christmas, it's likely that this is only a new thing. Like, how would he have missed this ad previous to this point?
Well, it sounded like he had a lot of them, and maybe he hadn't gotten to all of them yet.
Possibly.
But maybe I'm wrong. Anyway.
Fair theory. We learned that Bing is not 15, as I had originally thought, but an adult, and he works at a factory that produces or like distributes sevoflurane.
Yeah, he works at a chemical plant that makes knockout gas for children for dental procedures, I think.
Yeah. Predominantly it's used for dental procedures, yes. And they get gingerbread flavored is the one that they produce, or at least they have access to.
Because that's Christmas flavor.
It is Christmas flavor. I mean, it's clove and spice and ginger and vanilla.
And the Powerpuff Girls, I think.
I mean,
Just
that's
based on
not
your
usually in my Christmas list of flavors, but cool.
Yeah, but the sugar and the spice and whatever the other things were that you said.
Yeah, white people spices. It's basically what the flavor of pumpkin spice is Christmas flavor to me, because it's the same flavor in every dish, because white people. Cool. Moving on.
Yep.
So Bing kind of gets like haunted by the wrath for a little bit. He sees the car and can hear the Christmas music, and he's like, they've come to take me to Christmas land. And then he doesn't. And then he comes by again. And Bing gets really excited. And then he doesn't get taken. It takes a little while for...
But it's like a friendly Christmas-themed haunting.
Yeah, friendly.
And then Charlie Banks actually does talk to him.
Yeah, is it here also we get Bing's backstory?
Somewhere in here. I think.
Yes.
I don't know exactly where, but yeah, he was abused and then murdered his parents.
Yeah.
In self-defense.
Well, not really.
Well,
it's self-defense
in the general sense of self-defense.
In the same way that like it's that domestic crack or whatever it is, where you've been abused for so long that like even if you can't in the moment defend like it's not necessarily an in the moment defense of yourself, but you make a plan, right, effectively to save yourself. And so it's still manslaughter, which is why Bing is not in prison.
Yes.
He takes a nail gun to his father's head.
And then also his mom, just because, I think.
Because she didn't protect him? She didn't save him?
Yes. I think that was like the reasoning that we went through there.
Yeah. Anyway, so we've got an adult with developmental disorders who murdered his parents, who works in a chemical plant that produces knockout gas for kids. Honestly, if Charlie Max is like trying to find somebody who would very easily fit the type to take the blame, I think he's nailing it.
Yeah, he's doing an alright job. I'm trying to think. It says, I don't remember if we get this information right now or if we get it like 10 minutes from now, but he talks about how there have been, I forget the exact number, like 9 people like Bing before him, that once they get
10 kids each.
Once they steal 10 children, then they get to go to Christmas Land too.
Yeah.
It's a Christmas miracle.
For some.
For no one, actually. I guess for the children. Because the children are going to eat those adults.
Yeah.
Well, eat is, again, more vampiric than what happens and not technically correct.
Yeah, I think that
destroy. They're going to destroy those adults.
I think let's play Stab the Drifter or something.
Scissors for the Drifter.
Scissors for the... Well,
it's a fun name for it. Like, why?
Because they're going to put scissors through the drifter.
I know, but why?
Snip them into little pieces. Because they have no empathy and happiness.
No, I mean, I know why, but, like, why?
Because this is a horror thriller book that you recommended? This is your fault.
Again, I did not recommend it. I chose it.
Okay. You chose this.
Nope, that makes it worse. Let's go back to recommend. No, they're both bad.
This is your fault. however
This
you
is my
look
fault.
at it. Yeah.
Oh well.
Yes. Okay, cool. So, we have Bing and Charlie Max are together, finally. And Max introduces Bing to the graveyard of children thing.
Yes. The graveyard of what will come.
Yeah.
What
Where-
might be. The graveyard of what might be.
Where he shows Bing the potential future graveyards of children who have been abandoned and neglected and tormented by their parents. And it's their job, as in Bing and Max's,
Thanks.
Manx, to save these children from the fate that will eventually destroy them. And Bing is super
for about
cool.
10 seconds. For about 10 seconds in this chapter, I was like, maybe he's not crazy. And then I was like, no, never mind.
Well, I did for a second entertain the idea that he's not necessarily the bad guy, because it is a thriller, and I was expecting a bit of a red herring.
Yeah, that's where I was, in maybe more of a meta sense, where it's like, okay, I'm reading a book, so maybe this guy we're somehow seeing a twisted perspective, and actually he's not crazy, and trying to just murder some children. And technically, he's not crazy or trying to murder. Well, he is crazy. He's not trying to murder some children.
No, he just murders a lot of
sense.
adults.
Yes.
Sorry, he doesn't do that either. He gets the children to murder the adults.
I think he murders some of the adults. It's pedantic.
I mean, he's bringing adults to be murdered. He's at least accessory. In fact. Yeah.
Yes. The least he can get away with is accessory to, 97 murders.
Yeah, something like that. Cool. So then we're back in Vic's perspective. She is 17. She uses she has a fight with her mother, and then she goes to call her dad to pick her up, but her dad is living with a new girlfriend who's barely older than Vic is, and they've had a fight, as in Vic and the girlfriend. And the girlfriend says that Vic's not allowed to come to their house, and her dad Dad says that he's not going to come and get her, he'll call her a cab. She's like, I don't want a cab. And she hangs up on him. And then she's like, I could sleep in the station, but it's quite cold. And then she decides to just break back into her house and sleep in the basement. Which is where she finds her childhood bike, the Rayleigh. There we go.
The Raleigh. Relay?
I don't know.
I had gone with Raleigh because that's an American word.
Is it cool? Because
bike.
It's a bike. It's the boy's bike. It's the big boy's bike.
It's the big boy's bike.
Yeah.
Because she's a big boy now. Actually, she's too big for the bike, I think.
Yes, she is.
Because she's basically an adult.
Yeah, she doesn't get any bigger from this point on. She remains pretty much the same.
She's reached her maximum height.
Yeah. Cool. So Vic grabs the bike and heads to the shorter way, which has physically been demolished in the real world.
It had already been demolished by the first time that she goes to it.
Not the very first time. It actually is destroyed the day that she crosses it.
Yeah.
It was already abandoned, and then it falls in the river, I think, on the day of. Yeah. Or at least within that time frame.
It's very close to it, regardless. Yeah.
Cool. And
now
I think
she goes looking for trouble.
Yeah. And the bridge is Christmas land or something.
No,
Is that
it's
what it says on the bridge?
the sleigh house.
Oh, the sleigh house, yeah. So, Charlie Mannix's real life house is also Christmas themed. And so Vic ends up heading there via the Shortaway Bridge. She ends up at the bridge and ends up sneaking into his house, effectively, trying to find the... So she puts two and two together with the name of the car and the serial killer, right?
Yeah, she recognizes the... Did she have the license plate number? Is that what it was that she was going on? But like, she recognized that this is what she had been told to avoid by Maggie, because back when she talked to Maggie, Maggie was like, don't
go now.
Whatever you do, don't go after this guy.
Yeah.
So then she decides, I'm gonna go after that guy, and she goes after that guy.
Yeah, but she's much larger than when she got the don't go after that guy. Because she's 17.
Better equipped than she had been.
Because she's almost fully tall, or full height.
She's maxing out some of her stats. Specifically height.
Yeah. And maybe intelligence. Cool. So she...
Yeah.
She
starts falling apart after this, so this might actually be just about max intelligence. Because she doesn't, like, after this, she starts, like, was anything real, or am I losing my mind?
So she definitely gets more experience and a little bit, like, more confident and all those kind of things, but, like, intelligence as a raw, this is it.
She gets wisdom, not int.
Okay, cool. So she's there. She thinks that there's a child locked in the car, and she attempts to get him out of the car. But the child has rows and rows of sharp brown teeth and is as like ice cold. And she escapes into the house because he's coming in from the outside. And basically Charlie Mannix sets his own house on fire to, like, trap her in there.
Yeah. So she tries to rescue the child. She tries to rescue the child. Like, she's like, all right, like, I'm going to get you out of the car. And the kid's like, I can't leave the car. And then she's like, okay, but I'm going to let you out of the car. And then he tries to pull her into the car, and the car tries to pull her into the car. Yeah. And then she runs into the building, and eventually the house gets set on fire.
After a lot of, like, taunting, which is true of a lot of, like, thriller, serial killer TV shows, and the like, a lot of taunting from the child, from Charlie Mannix, and maybe the car gets in on it? Who knows?
Yeah, I don't think it was necessarily evident that the car was doing stuff on its own at this point. That becomes entirely apparent later on, to the point where I, for a while, was questioning whether the car was the sentient one and Charlie Mannix was, like, the, I don't know what to call it, like, vessel, or if Charlie Mannix was the real thing and the car was the vessel.
Yeah, okay, so just as an aside, I've read a book that's, like, real similar in kind of theme, in that, you know the stories of, like, haunted cars and, like, the Stephen King novel where the car is, like, sentient and goes around killing people?
Yes.
Yeah, so that legend, I've read a, like, kid's story, I think it's called Demon something or other, I can't actually spot it, but where the car was itself an entity, and then it got itself a human, and then was like, okay, now we're going to be just the human part of this, so that we don't keep killing people. We've developed a conscience and morale. It was an interesting take, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that the car was gonna... I mean, the car was doing quite the opposite, actually. The car is the vampire, I guess. But the car...
Or the kids are the vampire? The kids are real bitey.
Yeah, everyone gets a little bit of the vampire trait. Just like
We take
the way
one
it's-
vampire and we'll split it into a bunch of different things, and everybody gets a bit.
yes. The children get the teeth. The car gets the life sucking. Charlie Manx gets the immortality, I guess.
Yeah. And the lack of morals.
And the cold personality. Well, the warm personality, but the cold morals.
Just becomes a psychopath.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So, anyway,
Better.
she gets out of the burning house. Moving promptly along, because this is already way too long. And we're not even halfway through the story, which I did not see coming, because I did not have a hard copy. I thought this was going to be the end. Cool.
Oh, like when you arrived at that, you were like,
Oh, this is the climax. Yeah, that's what I thought.
clearly. Nope, we're less than 200 pages into this 700-page book.
Yeah, again, probably should have read some information about the book before I started.
Yeah, so she escapes, or I should let you do your,
Nah, dude, it's fine. I love this.
So she escapes, loses the bike in the escape.
No, so
And
not
then-
quite. So Charlie Mannix sees her, recognizes her
yes.
for who she is, takes the bike and throws it back into the shortaway, causing the shortaway to leave. Meaning that she has no way home.
Right, she literally just, like, runs from this. Like, the house catches fire, he leaves, she finds a highway, and then finds Lou.
Yeah.
Lou and some other guys try to kill Charlie Manx, who has come back to kill her.
Well, she and Lou end up at the petrol station, and they are calling the police because she's like, I was kidnapped, da 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 da, all this shit. Basically lies to justify her being where she is.
A million miles away, yeah.
So far away from home. And then there's like a vet, a war veteran and an active duty military guy in the gas station at the time, and the military guy's mother. And the Wrath pulls up to the petrol station, and she's like, holy shit, that's him! And so like everybody runs out to like try and stop him. And then we get the car kind of moving on its own. I guess I didn't quite trig to the fact that it was the car until afterwards. Because like Charlie Max set somebody on fire, and that we can hear there's somebody in the boot of the car, but they never managed to open the boot and find out who's in there
Yeah.
before the thing is like burnt to a crisp.
Yeah, I think this is where you first see, like, the car doing stuff on its own, but you don't necessarily register that, like, the car is just doing it.
Yeah. Anyway, yes, so there's that. That's how that
He would
happened.
use it for the second time on Tom Priest, not 30 seconds later, by which time Tom was well dead. Not to mention, well done.
Yeah, he caught fire. It's well written. I have to give the fact that this book is well written. Like, the words are good. All the sentence structure is really nice. I enjoy...
the words are good. 5 out of 5 stars.
Look, we have read some books in the course of this where originally we thought...
Words are not good. No, I know. Sometimes the words are not good. And no matter what the story is, if the words are not good, it's not a good book anymore.
Yeah. Well, so we read this book that was... we thought had been translated. So Trex got it first. We thought it had been translated from German into English, and that's why the English version of the book was so bad. But it had actually been written into English, translated into German, and the German translator had done a better job of putting the story together than
So
the
they just
original
used that.
author. Yeah. So I'm going to be like, Trex, this is terrible. Like, this is awful. And she was like, it was really good in German. I don't understand. And then she's like reading the German and the English one like side by side, being like, yeah, somebody put in work in the German one, like real work.
Yeah. And I mean, the reason I liked, one of the things that I liked about Horton's and why I was comfortable like reading another one of his books without knowing much about it is that the words were good. So.
Yeah. Yes. So the story is well written and well put together. The only like criticism I have is that this is probably not my kind of story, and too many people die, and I got too sad. But like again, that's because this isn't my kind of story.
Yeah, I'm on parts of this are not my kind of story, parts of it are, and Bing is a very uncomfortable character to have to follow.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Also, the children with the teeth was spooky.
Yeah, but totally right up my alley.
Right, vampires.
Yeah. I've been reading a lot. I was a teenage girl during the vampire phase. You can't take that part of my personality away. It will always be a part of who I am.
It's always vampire time.
Always vampire time. Vampire romance novel? Of course I'll read that. Thank you very much.
I think we somehow slowed progress since we pointed out how slow our progress was.
Yeah, we've hit an hour of recording, not an hour of phone call.
Good.
Cool. Trying to like wrap this up. We're 200 pages in to 720 pages.